Imagine this. A man is running. Not the run of someone chasing something, the run of someone who has nothing left and is still moving anyway. His sandals slap against stone that has not seen rain in years until yesterday. His robe is stained with smoke and blood and the dust of a mountain he climbed alone. His hair is matted to his forehead with sweat that has dried and been replaced and dried again. And in his hand, crumpled so tight the knuckles have gone white, is a folded piece of parchment. A message. Delivered that morning by a runner from the palace. 9 words on it. 9 words from a queen. And the man who yesterday called fire down from heaven in front of an entire nation, the man whose prayer broke a 3-year drought and made the rains come, is running from those 9 words like a child runs from a shadow on the wall. He does not stop at the border of his own country. He crosses it. He keeps going. He leaves his servant in the last town with people in it and walks alone into the Negev, into the place where nothing grows, where the sun is a hammer and the rocks throw the heat back up at you. He walks for a day, 1 full day, and when the sun finally lowers and his legs finally refuse, he looks around at a landscape that has nothing in it. No village, no well, no shelter, no human voice, and he sees one thing, one small twisted tree, a broom tree, Rotham in Hebrew, the only shade in the desert. He does not choose it for its meaning. He chooses it because it is the only shadow available. He walks to it. He drops, face in the dirt. And the greatest prophet in Israel, the man who just yesterday stood on Mount Carmel with the whole nation watching, opens his mouth and says to the God who has answered every prayer he has ever prayed, "It is enough. Take my life. I am no better than my fathers." If you have ever given everything you had to something, poured your whole soul into a moment, a calling, a person, a season, and then found yourself the day after, lying somewhere you do not remember choosing, unable to explain to anyone why you cannot get up, this story is for you. If you have ever collapsed after a victory in a way that made no sense even to yourself, and felt ashamed that you fell apart at exactly the moment you were supposed to be celebrating, this story is for you. Not as a lesson, as a letter written for you a very long time ago, and just a long time arriving. Because what happens next under that tree is one of the gentlest moments in the whole Bible. And almost nobody talks about it. There is no rebuke. There is no sermon. There is no list of reasons why Elijah should pull himself together. There is only what God does. And what God does is so quiet and so tender, and so unlike what we expect from a God who throws fire, that the moment you really see it, something in you that has been carrying a weight you did not know how to name will start very slowly to put it down. To understand what happens under that broom tree and why it reaches you tonight, we have to go back, not far, just 1 day, because the day before he asked to die, Elijah did something that the prophets had not seen in generations, and it is what he did the day before that explains why he collapsed the day after. If quiet evenings with these stories are something you need right now, stay with us, subscribe. There will be more like this. So let us go back, to the day before the running, to a mountain on the coast where a stubborn prophet has called an entire kingdom to come and watch one question be answered, once and for all. He has not eaten properly in weeks. He has not slept under a roof in 3 years. He has been hiding in caves, drinking from streams that one by one have dried up, fed at one point by ravens because there was no one else to feed him. His country is starving. His king hates him. His queen has put a price on his head. And he is about to do something so daring, so reckless, so completely without backup that even now, 3,000 years later, when you read it, your chest tightens. He is about to stand alone in front of 450 prophets of a foreign god, in front of a king who wants him dead, in front of a nation that has forgotten whose it is. And he is about to ask heaven to answer, out loud, in fire, in front of everyone. What happens on that mountain is what makes the next day impossible, because there is a kind of giving that empties you in a way ordinary tiredness does not. There is a kind of standing alone in front of everyone that costs something the body cannot name and the soul cannot replace by sleeping. And Elijah is about to learn, under a small twisted tree, with his face in the dirt, with 9 words from a woman in his hand, that spiritual power and emotional survival are 2 completely different things, and that the God who answers with fire on the mountain is also the God who shows up in the desert with bread. But before any of that, before the angel, before the bread, before the long walk and the silence at the end of it, we have to see what happened on the mountain. We have to see what he gave, so that when he falls, we understand why. And so that when we fall, in our own way, in our own desert, under our own small shadow, we will know what kind of God is already on his way to us. The mountain is called Carmel. It rises out of the coastal plain like a green shoulder leaning against the sea. In a good year, it is one of the most beautiful places in the country, covered in oaks and wild flowers and the smell of rain in the soil. But this is not a good year. This is the 3rd year of the drought Elijah called down. The grass is brown. The streams are cracks. The trees stand like men who have forgotten what water feels like. And up the slope from every direction people are climbing. Farmers with hollowed cheeks. Mothers carrying children who have stopped crying because crying takes water. Soldiers from the king's guard. Elders, merchants, the curious, the desperate. All of them summoned by one man's word, because the king did not dare refuse him. 450 prophets of Baal are already there, in their coloured robes, with their drums and their knives, standing around an altar of stone they have built themselves. Their king, Ahab, watches from the side, arms folded, jaw tight. And Elijah, one man in a rough cloak, with hair like a wild thing, with no sword, no army, no second prophet behind him to nod when he speaks, walks into the middle of all of them, looks at the crowd, and asks one question. How long will you go limping between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. If Baal, follow him. The people do not answer. The silence is its own kind of verdict. So he sets the terms. 2 bulls, 2 altars, no fire lit by human hand. Whichever God answers by fire, that one is God. The prophets of Baal go first. They call, they shout, they dance around their altar from morning until noon. Nothing happens. They cut themselves with knives and lances until the blood runs down their arms onto the dust, and the dust drinks it the way dry ground drinks anything offered to it. Still nothing. The sun climbs, the afternoon burns, and Elijah, watching them, does something the text records almost gently. He mocks them. Cry louder, he tells them. Perhaps your God is asleep. Perhaps he is on a journey. Perhaps he is busy. There is something almost tired in it, something that has been waiting 3 years to say it out loud. Then evening comes, and he calls the people closer. Come here to me, he says, and they come. They stand around him in a half circle on the burnt grass, and they watch him do the slowest, strangest thing. He rebuilds an altar. 12 stones. 1 for each tribe of the people who have forgotten they are one people. He digs a trench around it. He arranges the wood. He places the bull on top. And then he tells them to do something that, in the middle of a 3-year drought, is almost cruel. Pour water on it. 4 jars. They pour. Pour again. They pour. A 3rd time. By now the wood is soaked, the meat is soaked, the stones are dark with water, and the trench around the altar is full, water they cannot spare, water that costs more than gold in this country right now, water poured out so that no one watching can ever say a hidden spark did this. And then Elijah steps forward. He does not shout. The text is very careful about this. He does not dance. He does not cut himself. He does not work himself into a frenzy. He simply prays. Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, Lord, answer me. That is all. 20 seconds, maybe. A whole life pressed into a few honest sentences. And the fire falls. It falls like nothing anyone has ever seen. It consumes the bull. It consumes the wood. It consumes the stones. the stones themselves, and the dust, and it licks up the water in the trench until even that is gone. The whole altar vaporized, and the people, all of them, fall on their faces in the burnt grass and cry out, "The Lord, He is God, the Lord, He is God." It is the moment Elijah has been waiting for his entire life, and the moment is not yet finished, because Elijah is not done. He has the prophets of Baal seized, all 450 of them, taken down to the brook Kishon, and there, in the bed of a stream that has been dry for 3 years, he puts them to death. With his own hand, the text seems to imply. One man, 450, and then he climbs back up the mountain and bows down with his face between his knees and tells his servant, "Go and look toward the sea." The servant looks. Nothing. Go again. Nothing. 7 times he sends him, 7 times. And on the 7th, the servant comes back and says, "There is a little cloud rising out of the sea, like a man's hand." That is all Elijah needs. He sends word to the king, "Get down off the mountain before the rain stops you." And then the sky goes black, and the wind rises, and the rain that has not fallen in 3 years comes down like the heavens have been holding their breath this whole time and finally let go. And Elijah, this is the detail almost no one notices, does not ride in a chariot home. The hand of the Lord comes on him, and he tucks his cloak into his belt, and he runs, on foot, ahead of the king's chariot, all the way to the gates of Jezreel, about 20 miles, in the dark, in the storm. After a day of standing alone in front of a kingdom, after killing 450 men, after praying down fire and rain in the same afternoon, he runs ahead of a chariot for 20 miles. There are forms of giving that the body can survive in the moment, on adrenaline, on the strange grace that comes when God is moving through you. And then the moment ends. The crowd goes home. The sky empties itself. The fire is cold ash on the mountain, and the man who carried it all has to come down. If you have ever stayed standing through something only God could have held you up through, and then found, the next morning, that your hands were shaking and you could not say why, you already know something about what is about to happen to Elijah. The body keeps a record the soul does not always read in time. He runs into Jezreel in the rain. He is soaked. He is shaking. He has not eaten. He has not slept. He is just one. And somewhere inside the palace he is running past. A woman is being told what happened on the mountain, and she is reaching for parchment. And she is dictating 9 words. Jezreel at dawn. The rain has been falling all night, and now in the grey first light the streets are running with water that nobody knows what to do with after 3 years of dryness. Roof tiles drip, door frames are dark with damp, the smell of wet earth, a smell most of the children in this city have never smelled in their lives, rises off every alley. And somewhere in the city, in a small room he has been given on the edge of someone's house, Elijah is asleep, or trying to sleep. The clothes he ran in are heaped in the corner, heavy with water. His sandals are by the door. He has perhaps eaten a piece of bread, perhaps not. He has perhaps slept for an hour. The body is still humming from yesterday, in that strange way bodies do after they have done something they were not built to do, a low electric tremble that will not stop. And while he lies there, in the palace on the hill above him, a different room is full of light, lamps, servants moving quietly, and a woman sitting up straight on the edge of a couch, listening. Her name is Jezebel. She is the daughter of a king from the coast, Sidon, where the temples of Baal are taller than any in this country, where she grew up watching her father rule a city that did not flinch. She married Ahab to seal an alliance, and she brought her gods with her. 450 prophets of Baal eating at her table, 400 more of Asherah, a whole religious apparatus imported, paid for, protected. And her husband, the king of Israel, has just walked into her chamber, soaked and shaking, and told her what happened on the mountain. He has told her about the fire. He has told her about the people on their faces. And he has told her, this is the part she stops him on, about the brook, about what Elijah did to her prophets in the bed of a dry stream. She does not weep. She does not raise her voice. She does not call for soldiers. She calls for a scribe. And she dictates a message. Short. So short, it fits on a strip of parchment a man can hold in his palm. So may the gods do to me, and more, if I do not make your life like the life of one of them by this time tomorrow. That is it. That is the whole thing. She does not send an army. She does not send assassins. She sends a sentence. She sends a deadline. And she sends it openly, by a runner, in daylight, to the house where he is sleeping, so that he will know it is coming, so that he will have all day to think about it, so that the fear will do half the work for her. There is something terribly precise about this. She is not trying to kill him quickly. If she wanted that, she could have done it. She is trying to break him. And she knows, somehow, in that intuitive way that people who have studied power know, exactly where the cracks are. Because here is the strange thing. Yesterday on the mountain, Elijah stood in front of 450 men with knives, in front of a king who hated him, in front of a kingdom that could have torn him apart with their bare hands if the fire had not fallen. And he was not afraid. The text never says he was afraid. He mocked, he prayed, he gave orders, he ran in the rain, he was fully alive. And then a piece of parchment arrives with one woman's sentence on it, and something inside him simply goes out, like a lamp blown out by a draught from a door you did not know was open. Why? Why does fire from heaven not break him, and 9 words from a queen do? Read it slowly, the way you would read a letter that was meant for you. Yesterday he was standing in a moment God had built for him. The whole sky was on his side. Every breath he took was being held up by something he could feel. Today the moment is over. The crowd has gone home. The sky has done its part. And in the silence after, in the ordinary morning, with wet clothes in the corner and the smell of wet earth in the air, he is alone again. Just him. Just a man. Just a body that has not slept. And into that silence drops one sentence from one woman who is not impressed by yesterday, who is not on her face in the burnt grass, who has heard the report and decided that none of it matters to her, and that he will be dead by tomorrow evening. And something in him believes her. Not because she is stronger than the God who threw the fire, he knows better than that, but because, in the hollow that comes after you have given everything, the voice that is loudest is not always the truest voice. It is just the voice you have energy left to hear. If you have ever survived something enormous with God's hand visibly on you, and then a few hours later been undone by a small comment, a short message, a look from one person, a sentence you cannot unhear, you already know exactly what is happening in this room. The threat is not bigger than the miracle. It is just better timed. It arrives in the moment the body has nothing left to defend with. It walks in through the door that yesterday's victory left open. And it does what no amount of opposition could have done while he was standing on the mountain. There is something Jezebel understands about exhaustion that many of us learn the hard way. The enemy of your soul does not usually attack you on your strongest day. Your strongest day is too well defended. The attack comes the morning after, when the adrenaline is gone, when the crowd is gone, when the sky is empty and the room is quiet and you are alone with a body that gave more than it had. That is when one sentence can do what an army could not. He reads it once, maybe twice. He folds it. He looks at the wall, and somewhere inside him, a decision is made that is not really a decision. It is more like a tide going out. He gets up. He puts on the wet clothes. He picks up his staff. He walks out into a city that is still asleep, in the grey light, with the rain finally slowing, and he starts moving south. He does not tell anyone where he is going. He is not sure himself. He only knows that he cannot stay in this city, in this country, in this skin for one more hour. He walks past the gates, past the last houses, past the last fields. He walks until the road runs out, and then he keeps walking. And ahead of him, somewhere he has not yet reached, a small twisted tree is waiting in the only patch of shade in the desert, and he is walking, without knowing it, straight toward it. Beersheba, the southernmost town in the country, the last well, the last gate, the last place where a traveler can be handed a piece of bread by a stranger without paying for it with his blood. He reaches it after maybe a day and a half of walking. We are not told exactly. He stops at the edge of the town long enough to look at his servant, a young man who has followed him through 3 years of caves and ravens and burnt mountains. A young man who would walk into the desert behind him without asking why and probably die there. And Elijah does the kindest cruel thing he has done in a long time. He leaves him there. "Stay here," he tells him. He does not explain. He does not say where he is going. He just turns south, alone, and steps off the edge of the known world. He walks into the Negev. There are no roads now, no fields, no goats, no shepherds, just stone and red earth that has been red since Abraham, and a horizon that does nothing but bend around you no matter how far you go. The sun climbs, his shadow shortens, vanishes under his feet at noon, and starts to stretch again on the other side. He drinks the little water he has. He walks. He drinks. He walks. He stops noticing when he is walking and when he is just standing still with his eyes open. By the time the sun is sinking, he has walked the equivalent of a day's journey into a wilderness that nobody goes into voluntarily. And then his legs simply stop. He looks around. There is nothing. No well. No shepherd. No voice. Just one small, twisted tree, no taller than a man, with thin grey branches and tiny leaves that throw a shadow about the size of a body lying down. He walks the last 20 steps. He drops. He does not arrange himself. He does not take off his sandals. He does not lay down his staff. He just goes down, face into the dust, the thin shade of the broom tree falling across the back of his head. And the words come out of him before he can choose them. Rav, Ata Adonai, Kach Nafshi. It is enough now, O Lord. Take my life. Listen to the Hebrew for a moment, because it is gentler than the English makes it sound. Rav. Enough. The same word a mother uses when her child has cried long enough. Enough now, little one. The same word used at the end of a journey when the travelers can finally put down their bundles. Enough. We have arrived. It is not a scream. It is not a curse. It is the word of someone who has been carrying something for so long that his arms have simply opened. Enough now. And then the second half. I am no better than my fathers. That is the line that gives the whole thing away. Because all his life Elijah has been told, and has perhaps quietly believed, that he was meant to be the one. The prophet who would finally turn the nation back. The one who would not fail the way the prophets before him had failed. And lying under that little tree, with one woman's sentence still folded somewhere in his cloak, he hears himself say out loud what he has been afraid to think for years. I am not the one. I am not better. I am just another tired man under another small tree, and the work is not done, and the queen is still alive, and the people who fell on their faces yesterday will be back to limping between two opinions by next week, and I cannot do this anymore. It is enough now. Take my life. Look at him for a moment. The greatest prophet in Israel. The man who called fire down. The man who outran a chariot, lying in the dirt with his face turned sideways so he can breathe, asking the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel to please just let him stop. There is something almost holy about how honest this is. He does not pretend. He does not say, Lord, give me strength to keep fighting. He does not say, Lord, I trust you, send me back. He says the true thing, the thing underneath all the other things, the thing that even friends do not always hear from us when we are this far gone. I cannot do this anymore. And do you see what he does not do? He does not try to kill himself. That is something worth noticing. He walks for a day into a desert where dying would be easy, and when he gets there, he does not raise his hand against his own life. He hands it back. He puts it in the hands of the only one he has ever trusted with anything that mattered. Even at the end of himself, even asking to be done, he is still, somewhere, somehow, talking to God. The prayer is broken, but it is a prayer. If you have ever reached a place where you could no longer pretend you were fine, where the only honest thing you could say to God was, I cannot carry this another step, and I do not understand why you have not let me put it down. Hear something tonight. That sentence is not the opposite of faith. It is sometimes the deepest faith there is, because you only say it to someone you still believe is listening. He closes his eyes. The sun is going down. The shade of the broom tree has lengthened across his whole body now. The desert is starting to cool. Somewhere in the rocks, an animal moves, then stops. He does not hear it. He has gone down into that thin, heavy sleep that comes when the body finally agrees with the soul that it has nothing left. And the sky above him does what the sky does over a man at the end of himself. It darkens slowly. The first stars come out. The wind picks up just enough to move the small leaves of the rofum over his face like fingers, checking if he is still breathing. He is, barely, and he sleeps. He does not know it yet, but he is not alone under the tree. He has not been alone for one step of the road that brought him here. And somewhere, already on the way to him, moving the way only God's mercy moves, without hurry and without delay, there is someone coming, not with a sermon, not with a list, not with a rebuke for the prayer he just prayed, with something much simpler, something a man who has walked this far and asked this much and given this everything can actually receive. Night in the desert south of Beersheba, the kind of darkness that has no edges. The stars are so close they almost have weight. The air has cooled enough to be kind, and under the broom tree, a man is sleeping the way the very tired sleep, not peacefully, not restfully, just deeply, the way a stone sleeps in a riverbed. He does not feel the wind shift. He does not hear the soft sound of footsteps that are not footsteps. He does not see the figure that is suddenly there, standing beside him, looking down at his sleeping face, the way you look at someone you have known a long time and have been waiting to find. And then a hand, just a hand, touching him on the shoulder. Light, steady, the way you wake a child who is sleeping in a place they should not be sleeping. The text uses one Hebrew verb here, naga, and it is the same word used elsewhere for the way a healer touches a wound, the way a father touches a son's forehead to see if the fever has broken. Not a shake, not a grip, a touch, and a voice, not loud, not commanding, a voice that says only this: Kum, ekol. Get up, eat. That is it. That is what the angel says. Not, how dare you ask to die. Not, do you have any idea what God just did through you yesterday. Not, pull yourself together, prophet, the work is not finished. Not even, do not be afraid. Just two words. Get up, eat. Read that again slowly, because something in the order matters. He does not say, eat and then get up, as if Elijah needs to recover before he can even move. He says, get up. The smallest possible motion. Just lift your head. Just sit up. Just be here with me for a minute. And then, eat. As if God knows that the body has to be asked one tiny thing before it will agree to be asked anything else. Elijah opens his eyes. The angel is already turning away, or perhaps already gone. We are not told. But there beside his face, in the dust under the broom tree, are two things, a jar of water and a cake of bread baking on hot stones. The Hebrew calls it ugat retzafim, a cake on coals. Some old commentators say it was the kind of flatbread shepherds make when they have nothing, a handful of flour pressed flat and laid on stones heated in the fire, simple, warm, the kind of food a poor mother would make for a child who came in cold. Smell it for a moment. There, in the middle of nowhere, where the only thing for miles is sand and stone, the smell of fresh bread, yeasty, warm, the way kitchens smell on winter mornings in houses you have loved. It is almost too tender to be real. He looks at it. He looks at the water. He does not say thank you. He does not say anything at all. He is too far gone for words. He simply reaches out, slowly, the way you reach for something you are not sure you deserve, and he eats. And he drinks, and then, and this is the part that always gets me, he lies back down. He does not get up. He does not pack a bag and start walking. He does not have some sudden surge of holy energy. He eats, drinks, and lies down again, like a sick child, and the angel lets him. There is no second voice. No, but Elijah, the people of Israel need you. No, but Elijah, you have work to do. He just lets him sleep. Look at this. Really look. Because this is what God does with a broken prophet. He does not preach to him.
He does not correct his theology.
He does not even answer the prayer he prayed. Elijah asked to die. God said no, but he said it without saying it. He said it with bread. He said it with water. He said it with a hand on a shoulder in the middle of the night. He said it by letting him sleep again afterward. There are forms of God's answer that look nothing like answers. There are nights when what we need is not a sermon but a meal, not a vision but a few hours more of sleep, not a calling but a hand that says, "Here, eat this, you have walked a long way." And then he comes back. The text is very careful about this. The angel comes a second time, he touches him a second time, and he speaks one more sentence, which I want you to hear in the gentlest voice you can imagine, because that is the voice it was almost certainly spoken in. Get up and eat, for the journey is too long for you. Not, the journey is too long. The journey is too long for you. Personal, specific, as if the angel is looking at this man's face, this man's exhaustion, this man's particular limits, and saying, I know what you can carry and what you cannot. I see how far you have come. I see how far there still is to go. And I am telling you, friend, you cannot do this on what you have. You need more than willpower. You need food. There is something here that almost no one notices, and it is the heart of the whole story. God does not tell Elijah he was wrong to collapse. He does not say, you should not have run. He does not say, you should not have asked to die. He treats the collapse as information, as a true thing about a real man in a real body. And he meets it not with words about who Elijah is supposed to be, but with what his body actually needs to keep going. If you have ever felt ashamed of needing rest, of needing food, of needing help, of needing to lie back down when everyone around you was telling you to get up and fight, hear this tonight. The God of fire on the mountain is the same God of bread under the tree. And when he comes to a man who has given everything and asked to be done, he does not bring a lecture. He brings breakfast. Elijah eats again, he drinks again, and this time, when he gets up to walk. He does not yet know where he is going. He does not know how long it will take. He only knows that something has been put into his body that was not there before, and that whatever it was, it is enough to take the next step. He stands, he shoulders his cloak, he looks south, and he begins, very slowly, to walk into a country he has never seen. With the taste of warm bread still in his mouth. Step, step, step. The sun comes up behind him and crosses the sky and goes down in front of him, and he is still walking. He sleeps a few hours in the lee of a rock. He gets up before the heat. He walks again. There is no road. There is no map. There is only south, and then southeast, and then the long bend of the wilderness that the old shepherds call the Way of Sinai. He passes places that have no names, dry riverbeds with white stones in them, hills the color of bone. Once, in the distance, the dust of a caravan, too far to call out to. He does not call out. He has not spoken to a human being since he left his servant at the gates of Beersheba. The text says it plainly. He walked in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights. 40 days. Listen to that number for a moment, because anyone who grew up reading these scrolls would have heard a bell ring at it. 40 days is how long the rain fell on Noah, and the old world ended underneath. 40 days is how long Moses stayed up on a mountain in the cloud with the stone tablets under his fingers. 40 years is how long the people who came out of Egypt walked in this same desert, learning that they could not live by bread alone. And now one man, alone, walks 40 days into the same sand on the strength of one piece of bread baked on hot stones. He is not retracing their route by accident. There is something in him, even when he cannot name it, that knows where his feet are going. He is walking back to the beginning, back to where it all started, back to the mountain where his people first heard the voice of the God he is now no longer sure he understands. Horeb, the mountain of God. The same mountain Moses climbed when he was a runaway shepherd, when a bush burned and did not burn up. The same mountain where the law was given, where the cloud came down, where the people stood at the foot and trembled. If you are a prophet in Israel, and you have lost the thread of why you are still alive, there is only one place to walk. You walk to the place where God first spoke. He walks. His sandals wear thin. His beard grows in. His cloak collects the white dust of 3 different deserts. He drinks where he can, a spring here, a pool there, the dew off rocks in the morning. He eats almost nothing. There is almost nothing to eat, and yet his legs keep moving. The bread is in him somehow, not in his stomach anymore. That bread was gone within a day. Something else, something the bread carried that the body kept. Some old translators noticed this and tried to soften it. Surely he must have eaten other things along the way. Surely the 40 days are symbolic. Maybe, but the text says what it says. He walked 40 days in the strength of that food, as if heaven measured out exactly enough for the journey God knew he had to make. Not enough to feel strong, not enough to feel proud, just enough to take the next step, and the next, and the next. There is something here that is worth sitting with, friend. Sometimes God does not give you strength for the whole road. He gives you enough for today. And then tomorrow, on the strength of yesterday's small mercy, you take another step that you did not know was in you. And one day you look up and realize you have walked further than you ever thought you could. Not on bread, but on the memory of being fed once, in a place where you thought no one knew where you were. He does not pray much on this walk. The text does not say he does. He does not weep, as far as we know. He does not have visions. He does not hear the voice. He simply walks. Through the Arava, that long valley south of the Dead Sea where the heat lifts off the ground in waves and the air tastes like salt. Around the great copper mountains where caravans sometimes pass in the distance. Down into the deeper desert where the land gets stranger, where the rocks are red and black and the wadis go on for days. And the whole time, somewhere underneath everything, one question is doing slow circles in his chest. What am I doing? Where am I going? Why am I still alive? He does not have an answer. He does not need one yet. He just needs to keep walking. And then, on the 40th day, or thereabouts, the text is not interested in being precise, he sees it. A mountain rising up out of the desert, bare, granite, streaked with the dark stains of old fire, older than the kingdom he ran from, older than the name Israel, older than the bones of any prophet who ever stood at its foot. Horeb. He stops. He looks at it for a long time. The wind moves across his face. The dust on his cloak stirs and settles. He has come on the strength of one meal and one sentence, for the journey is too long for you, across the entire southern wilderness, to the only place in the world where the God he has loved his whole life first introduced himself by name. He does not run up the slope. He does not have it in him to run anywhere ever again. He walks, slowly. He finds, at the base of the mountain or maybe a little way up, an opening in the rock, a cave, a place to lie down out of the wind. He goes inside. He puts down his staff. He sits with his back against the cool stone, and the text tells us nothing about what he is thinking. It only tells us where he is. He has come to the mountain. He has come to the place where God lives in the memory of his people, and he is waiting. Not because he has a plan, not because he has a request ready. He is simply here, the way a tired child comes home and sits on the step before he knocks. Outside, the sun is setting on the granite peaks. Inside the cave, the air is cool and old. He pulls his cloak around his shoulders. He breathes. He closes his eyes, and somewhere in the rock above him, very faint, like wind in a far canyon, something is beginning to move. A voice. inside the cave. Not loud, not echoing off the walls the way a voice would in stone like this. Just there, the way a thought is there, the way someone speaking in the next room is there. "What are you doing here, Elijah?" That is the first thing God says to him. After 40 days of walking, after the broom tree, after the bread, after all of it, not, "Welcome home," not, "I am proud of how far you have come." Just a question. The gentlest, simplest question a friend ever asks another friend who has shown up unannounced at his door in the middle of the night. "What are you doing here?" And Elijah answers. The answer comes out of him all at once, the way things come out of you when you have been carrying them for too long, and someone finally asks. "I have been very zealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. The Israelites have forsaken your covenant. They have torn down your altars. They have killed your prophets with the sword. And I alone am left. And they are seeking my life, to take it away." Hear what he is really saying. Underneath the proper words and the prophet's grammar, he is saying, "I gave everything. I did all of it alone. Nobody else stood up, and now they want me dead, and I do not understand why I am still here." It is the speech of a man who has rehearsed his grievance in his head for 40 days of walking. It is not wrong. It is not whining. It is the truth as he can see it, from where he is sitting. And God does not argue with him. God does not say, "You have your numbers wrong." God does not say, "You are exaggerating." God says very simply, "Go out. Stand on the mountain before the Lord. The Lord is about to pass by." Elijah stands. He walks to the mouth of the cave. He stops. And then comes the part that the old writers wrote down so carefully that the Hebrew almost trembles on the page. A great and strong wind. Strong enough to tear the mountains apart. Strong enough to break rocks loose from the cliffs and send them rolling down into the wadis below. The kind of wind that fills the whole world with itself, that you feel in your teeth, that bends a man at the waist if he tries to stand against it. And the text says, and this is so quiet you almost miss it, "But the Lord was not in the wind." Then the earth itself. An earthquake. The ground moving under his feet like water. The cave behind him shifting. The mountain breathing. The kind of shaking that anywhere else in the ancient world would have been read as a god arriving. And the text says again, "But the Lord was not in the earthquake." Then fire. Fire on the mountain. Fire of the kind that fell on Carmel. The fire Elijah knows. The fire he asked for once. The fire that made a nation fall on its faces. Fire that lights the granite up from inside and turns the night into terrible day. And the text says, and you can almost hear the writer's voice drop here, "But the Lord was not in the fire." Sit with that for a moment, friend. The God who answered with fire on the mountain, the God Elijah is famous for serving, chooses this time not to be in the fire. Chooses not to be in the things Elijah would have recognized, chooses not to come the way Elijah came to him. And then, after the fire, the text uses 3 Hebrew words that translators have argued over for 3,000 years, because they are so soft they barely hold together. Kol demama daka, a voice of fine silence, a sound of sheer quiet, the whisper inside the hush. Some old translators called it a still, small voice. Some newer ones called it the sound of a gentle stillness. But it is not really a sound at all. It is the absence of sound, made so present that the absence itself has a kind of voice. The wind stops. The shaking stops. The fire goes out. And what is left is a quiet so deep that Elijah hears it, hears the silence, the way you hear your own breathing when a room has gone completely still. And the moment he hears it, the moment that thin, fine, holy hush touches him, he understands. He wraps his face in his cloak, the way Moses once hid his face in this same mountain, the way a man hides his face when he knows, without being told, who has just walked into the room. He steps out of the cave, and the The same voice, the voice that lives inside the silence, asks him the same question again. "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And Elijah, very gently, gives the same answer, the same speech, the same grievance, the same "I alone am left," the same "They are seeking my life." He has not changed. He has not had a sudden breakthrough. He is still the same tired man who arrived. And this is what I want you to see tonight. God does not correct his answer. God does not say, "Now that you have heard me in the silence, surely you have a better speech ready." He lets Elijah say the same thing twice. He lets him be exactly as broken on the way out as he was on the way in. Because the point of the silence was never to fix Elijah. The point of the silence was to show him who God is. Not in the fire, where he had always found him. Not in the wind, where the prophets before him had looked.
Not in the earthquake, where he might have expected vindication, but in a quiet, so fine and so close, it could only be heard by a man who had walked 40 days into the desert with nothing left to defend. If you have ever waited for God to answer you the way he has answered before, with fire, with sign, with something loud enough to be sure of, and gotten only silence, hear this. The silence may not be his absence. It may be the form his presence is taking, for you, this time. Spoken so quietly that only someone as tired as you would be still enough to hear it. Elijah stands at the mouth of the cave. The granite is cool under his feet. The stars are out again. The mountain has gone back to being a mountain. And inside the silence the voice begins, very softly, to tell him what comes next. Go back. That is what the voice in the silence tells him. Go back the way you came. Anoint a king over Aram. Anoint a new king over Israel. And find a young man named Elisha, son of Shaphat, ploughing in a field with 12 yoke of oxen, and throw your cloak over his shoulders. He will walk behind you. He will become you when you are gone. And one more thing, Elijah. You said you were the only one left. You are not. I have kept for myself 7,000 in Israel. Every knee that has not bowed to Baal, every mouth that has not kissed him. You have never been alone. You only thought you were. Read that slowly. Because everything the silence was for is inside it. Elijah has spent 3 years thinking he was the last man in the country still standing for God. He has carried that loneliness up a mountain and across a sea of sand and into a cave at the end of the world. And in the quiet, God tells him, gently, almost in passing, there are 7,000 others. You were never the one holding it up. You were one of 7,000. The math you had in your head was wrong. He has been carrying a weight that was never his to carry. And now he gets up. The text says it in 2 words in Hebrew, Vayelek Misham, and he went from there. That is how the cave story ends, not with a vision, not with a glory, just with a tired man getting up and walking back the way he came, because the silence told him to, and because there was a young man in a field somewhere, ploughing with oxen, who did not know yet that his life was about to change. He walks. The road back is long, but he is not the same man walking it. He finds Elisha in the field. The boy looks up, sees an old prophet in a dusty cloak, and somehow understands without being told. Elijah throws his cloak across the young man's shoulders, the way the angel once put bread beside his head. And Elisha leaves the oxen, kisses his father and mother goodbye, and follows. From that day on, Elijah is not alone in any room he ever walks into again. As for the others, the queen who wrote 9 words, she keeps her throne for a while longer, but the God who is patient is not blind. Years from now, in the same city of Jezreel, the same window she once dictated messages from will be the window she is thrown out of by her own servants at the word of a King Elijah's protege will anoint. Her name will become, for 3,000 years, a word for the cold cruelty that thinks it has won. Ahab will fall in battle, struck by an arrow shot at random, dying slowly in his chariot while the dogs lick the blood from the floorboards in the place where Naboth once died. The God Elijah served was not slow, he was simply not on Elijah's timetable. And Elijah himself, the man who once asked under a small tree to be allowed to stop, does not die under any tree. He does not die at all, the way men usually die. Years later, walking with Elisha by the Jordan, a chariot of fire and horses of fire come down between them, and Elijah is taken up in a whirlwind. The cloak he once threw on a young man's shoulders falls back to the ground for Elisha to pick up.
The prophet who asked God to take his life is the only prophet in the Bible who never tastes death. Hold that for a moment. The man who lay in the dust under the Rotham and said, "It is enough, take my life." God took him, just not the way he asked. Not on that day, not in that desert, not at the end of his strength, but at the end of his road, with his successor beside him and a sky full of fire that this time was for him alone. Maybe tonight you are under your own broom tree. Maybe you have given everything you had to give and woken up the next morning unable to explain to anyone why your hands are shaking. Maybe you are tired in a way that no one around you seems to understand, and you have begun to suspect, quietly, that you are the only one left who still cares. Maybe you have been waiting for fire and have been getting silence, and have started to wonder if the silence means he is gone. Hear this, friend. He is not gone. He is in the silence. He is in the bread someone unexpected handed you last week. He is in the strength you cannot account for, that has kept you upright on days when you should not have been able to stand. He is not angry that you collapsed. He has counted the 7,000 standing with you that you cannot see from where you are. And right now, somewhere very close to you, he is saying the same 2 words he said 3,000 years ago, in the dark, under a small tree in the Negev. Get up. Eat. The journey is too long for you on what you have, but it is not too long for what he is about to give you. Let us pray. Father, thank you that you are not in the fire we expected, but in the silence we did not know how to hear. We confess that we are tired, that we have given things we did not know how to give back, and have woken up afraid of small voices. Meet us under our own broom tree tonight. Bring bread, bring water, bring the touch on the shoulder that says, "Get up, eat, I am here." We do not need a sermon tonight. We need you. In the name of Jesus, Amen. I would love to know which moment stayed with you. The crumpled parchment in his hand, the water poured 3 times on the soaped altar, the angel's hand on his shoulder under the Rotham. The 7,000 he never knew were standing with him. Tell me down below. I really do read what comes in here. And if you would like another evening like this one, the next story is already waiting. The night Jesus prayed so hard in a garden full of olive trees that his sweat ran like drops of blood, and what his father said back, and why he still walked toward the soldiers when he could have walked away. Come and sit with us for that one. Until then, get up, friend, eat. The journey is too long for you on what you have, but you are not walking it alone. You never were.